Integrity is one of those words we all admire but often struggle to live out fully. We respect people who are honest, who stand by their word, who remain unwavering in their values. Yet, when life pressures us, when there's an easy way out, when honesty might cost us something, or when no one is watching, how many of us can say we remain true to what is right? Psalm 15 is a direct challenge to this, calling us to a life of integrity, one that aligns with God's standards rather than the shifting standards of the world. David begins Psalm 15 with a powerful question. Lord, who may dwell in your sacred tent? Who may live on your holy mountain? This isn't just about physical proximity to God, like who can enter the temple or be part of worship. It's much deeper. It's about relationship. Who is able to truly stand in God's presence? Who is at home with Him, living a life that reflects His holiness? Think of it like being invited into someone's home. Not just any home, but the home of someone you deeply respect, someone you wouldn't want to disappoint. You wouldn't walk in carelessly, tracking dirt all over the floor. You'd be mindful of how you act. David is reminding us that being close to God is a privilege, and the way we live matters. Then, in verse 2, he begins to answer his own question. The one whose walk is blameless, who does what is righteous, who speaks the truth from their heart. This isn't about perfection, because if it were, none of us would qualify. It's about sincerity. It's about striving to live a life that reflects God's righteousness. It's about being honest in who we are, both publicly and privately. We all know the temptation to wear masks, to be one person in church or around certain friends and another person when we think no one is paying attention. But God sees beyond the surface. He cares about what's in our hearts. I remember a time when I had the opportunity to take a shortcut at work. Nothing major, just bending the truth a little to make myself look better. No one would have known, but I would have known. And more importantly, God would have known. In that moment, I had to choose. Was my integrity worth more than temporary approval? This verse reminds us that walking with God requires a consistency of character. Not just doing the right thing when it's easy, but when it's hard. Not just speaking truth when it's convenient, but even when it costs us something. A life of integrity isn't about occasional good deeds. It's about daily, intentional choices to reflect God's truth. Pause for a moment and reflect. How do you define integrity in your own life? Are there areas where you struggle to be the same person in private as you are in public? What would it look like for you to walk blamelessly before God, not in perfection, but in sincerity? Psalm 15 isn't just a list of rules, it's an invitation to live in such a way that we can confidently step into God's presence, knowing that our hearts align with His. And that's the kind of life that brings true peace. Words carry weight. They have the power to build up or tear down, to heal or to wound, to bring clarity or create confusion. Psalm 15 verses 2-3 continues the description of the person who can dwell in God's presence. The one whose walk is blameless, who does what is righteous, who speaks the truth from their heart, whose tongue utters no slander, who does no wrong to a neighbor, and casts no slur on others. This is a high calling, one that challenges not just our actions, but our words. How often do we speak truth from the heart? Not just factual truth, but truth that is spoken with sincerity, kindness, and integrity. Many times, we shape our words based on what is easiest or most beneficial for us in the moment. Sometimes, we remain silent when we should speak, or we sugarcoat things to avoid conflict. Other times, we say things impulsively, without considering how they affect others. David is calling us to something different, to be people whose words are trustworthy, who don't manipulate, gossip, or tear others down, whose tongue utters no slander. Slander isn't just about outright lies. It includes half-truths, exaggerations, or speaking negatively about someone when they're not there to defend themselves. We've all been in situations where gossip spreads, where it's tempting to join in or at least listen. Maybe it even feels justified. But this verse reminds us that a person of integrity refuses to participate in those conversations. I remember a time when I was part of a conversation where someone's character was being questioned. I wasn't the one speaking, but I was listening. And in that moment, I felt convicted. Was I any better for staying silent? I wasn't saying the words myself, but I was giving space for them to be spoken. Later, I realized how easily we can damage someone's reputation, even without intending to. Psalm 15 challenges us not only to avoid speaking negatively, but also to stand up for what is right. David also mentions, "Who does no wrong to a neighbor and casts no slur on others." Integrity isn't just about avoiding lies or gossip. It's about actively seeking to do good to others. The way we treat people matters to God. Whether it's a family member, a co-worker, or a stranger, our actions should reflect His righteousness. Think about your daily interactions. Do your words and actions reflect integrity? Are there areas where you need to be more mindful of what you say or how you treat others? Integrity is built in the small moments, the casual conversations, the decisions we make when no one is watching, the way we speak about people behind their backs. A life of integrity isn't just about avoiding sin. It's about intentionally walking in righteousness. When we commit to speaking truth, honoring others, and refusing to participate in gossip or harm, we step closer to the kind of life that allows us to truly dwell in God's presence. Take a moment to reflect. Are there words you've spoken recently that you need to make right? Are there situations where you should have spoken truth but remained silent? What steps can you take today to ensure your words align with your faith? Living with integrity isn't always easy, but it builds a foundation that cannot be shaken. Psalm 15 verses 4 to 5 challenges us to stand firm in righteousness, even when it costs us. Who keeps an oath even when it hurts and does not change their mind? This means following through on commitments, even when circumstances change. It's about staying honest in business, keeping our word in relationships, and standing for truth, even when pressured to compromise. David also speaks about generosity, helping others without selfish motives. True integrity isn't just avoiding wrong, it's actively doing good. It's lending a hand, speaking truth, and treating people with fairness. When we live this way, God promises stability. Whoever does these things will never be shaken. A life of integrity might not always be easy, but it is always worth it. Final reflection. Psalm 15 isn't just about rules. It's an invitation to live in God's presence by aligning our hearts with His. Integrity is more than what we do when others are watching. It's about who we are when no one is. It's about choosing truth over convenience, righteousness over shortcuts, and faithfulness over self-interest. Where is God calling you to greater integrity? In your words, promises, or actions? Ask Him for strength to reflect His character, and you'll walk in peace, security, and closeness with Him.